Hello. Welcome to my dream come true. I'd like to thank Abraham for the best shower I've ever had in my life. If you're staying here at the Marriott, it has like a waterfall falling down, which is one of the conditions I've become addicted to with my well-being. And I'm really here to take my practice one step further. It was probably 6 months ago that I had acknowledged Esther as one of those people on the earth that is showing me a way of doing things that actually looks good to me, where no one else is. And I said, I'll do it. I'm ready. I've been trying for years, haphazardly. So I connected to everyone in this room, and I thank you for being my Abraham family. I know that we're drawn here together. And I've been waiting for this moment. I've been visualizing this moment. And I've been waiting to just come and thank all of you and tell you how beautiful my life has been since I've been looking for beauty every moment. When I wake up and I decide, oh, wait a second, this doesn't feel that great. What feels good? Oh, hold on a second. Wait a second, let's turn on Abraham. If I'm determined by who I spend the most time with, I'm going to spend the most time with Abraham. I'm going to start spending time with you, and one easy, satisfying step at a time, find my way to who I am in this beautiful life. And in this last 6 months, especially this last 6 weeks, especially this last 6 days, this last 6 minutes, everything has been going better and just blowing my mind, the things that come together. I can't coordinate when they say 2,000 action hours in 30, what is it, 2 seconds of thought? Thank you.
It's a lot of leverage and alignment.
I now meditate before my meetings, and I get a rampage going of the beauty I'm about to work with the friends I'm about to engage with, that I get to work with.
The nice thing is, because you've already been doing that, it's already there. In other words, you don't even have to set forth the intention that it's what's going to happen, because it's what's already happening, and anything else is illogical, isn't it? Yeah. Momentum is a lovely thing. Momentum is a lovely thing.
It's the most beautiful thing I've ever been introduced to. I can't say thank you enough.
Can you acknowledge the worthiness you feel because of how you figured out how to allow this connection that has always been there for you, but now you've tapped into it in a way that is causing you to just expect the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing to go well for you? And so it does. Yes.
My problem before was ego and the self-love, the difference between doing something to satisfy myself, and then to be satisfied and love myself and go do something, is the gift of life that you helped share with me.
Clarify that for us a little further.
I am a musician, I am a lyricist, I am an artist, I am everything you've been speaking to this morning. And I now look for the life I want to create in the song I go to make. Where before I went to blow up the room, and I still do.
But what we wanted to hear is your distinction relative to the ego, the selfish point of view. We just want to fine-tune that with you just a little bit.
The driving factor is, when I notice the driving factor, I question it.
Well, so let's just start by saying the driving factor is often what I'm trying to accomplish here in terms of my action. But rather than calling it a driving factor, let's call it the calling factor, or the flow factor, or what's already in motion factor, or the pre-flowed energy factor, or the getting ready to be ready to be ready to be ready to be ready factor. And so what you've discovered, because you must be egotistical in that you must focus, and you must focus about self. That's what the selfish factor is about. That's what the satisfaction is about, because you can only perceive through the eyes of self. But the determination that you're making, the distinction that you're making, is not ego or no ego, or selfish or no selfish, because in the satisfaction there has to be a selfish interest all the way along the way. The factor that you're discovering here is to be satisfied even though it hasn't manifested all the way out here. It's being so egotistical and so selfish that I'm determined to find something to feel good about, even though others in the room may not be able to see it yet. I'm not going to be confused about what path I'm on, because I've got a bead on what it feels like to be on the path of most allowance, which is the same as the path of least resistance. Yes?
Yes. I love myself now. I love myself, and now what do I want to go do? Instead of before, I did this and I love myself. And I did this and I love myself.
And I love this airplane ramp. And I love this seat, and I love this empty seat next to me. There is so much to appreciate as you're moving through the day, that when you tune yourself, when you finally tune yourself, then you're able to find the subtle beauty. Esther remembers moving to the desert after having lived in California. And in the desert, there was a lot of sand. And there were a lot of rocks, and there was a lot of space between anything that was green. But there was a subtle beauty in the desert that she came to appreciate. But at first she had to look really hard to find it, because it didn't just bowl her over. She had to reach for it. The desert was hot, and San Diego had been cool, and San Diego was green and the desert was brown. But because she wanted to find satisfaction, she had to tune herself differently. And then she discovered beauty in the desert that felt more satisfying to her than the beauty that she was finding in other places that had much more water and much more green and much lower temperatures. Beauty is in the eye of the perceiver, in the eye of the beholder, in the eye of the aligned, you see. And that's how you get unconditional. So then you say, oh, Abraham, we're on to you. You want us to get unconditional so that we can live in deserts instead of oases, so we can live, and then we can just learn to look really hard for things that are pleasant, and then we're just going to make ourselves satisfied without the beautiful things. And we say, if it sounded to you like that's what we said, it isn't what we said. What we said is, find something to appreciate and tune yourself to that. And in that satisfaction, there will be more and more and more, because through life, you've told your vortex exactly how you want to live and how you want to feel, and your inner being knows exactly where all of that is in relationship to where you are. And the more satisfied you are in your deserts, then the more oases you will be guided to. The more dissatisfied you are in your desert, the harder it will be for you to find water or anything to appreciate anywhere. Yeah.
So I love the idea of path of least resistance.
It's the same thing as path of most allowance, isn't it? It's the same thing. And who puts the resistance on the path?
Me.
Yeah. And is anybody upset about that? No. And does your inner being know how to work you around your resistance? Yes. And does the resistance all have to disappear? No. You just have to be listening so that you can make your way over it and under it and around it. And yeah.
And so that was the other thing I wanted to say. I love knowing that another path always, no matter where I am, there always is many paths to the things that I desire.
Well, that is a good way of putting it. Many paths, because I've got them blocked off for different reasons. I got this path blocked off for this reason, and this one blocked off for this reason. That happened in childhood, and that just happened yesterday, and my mother taught me that, and I read that in the Bible and or somewhere, and so I have all of this resistance on different paths. But there is always a path. There's always a path of lesser resistance, and your inner being knows what it is and is delighted to call you to it.
So I love the idea of that, because no matter what turn you make or a mistake you make or resistance that you put in your path, there's always a way to it.
There are no mistakes, because you can't get it wrong.
Right.
You just have different degrees of readiness to hear what your inner being is saying. It's like we've told the story so many times about Esther. The other day, something really interesting happened. You'll like this, because it really speaks to what we're talking about. So years ago, Jerry and Esther bought some furniture for this house that they have in Del Mar. And these nightstands were late to come. And she kept calling the man, where are they, where are they, where are they, where are they? And finally she said, well, we've decided we're just going to cancel the order for them, because we've been waiting a long time for them, and we really want them. So we'll just go find something else. And he said, they'll be there tomorrow. And so when they came tomorrow, they had freshly been created, and they were still tacky from the finish that had been put on them, so that the drawers wouldn't open and close. But Esther thought, I just want to put my stuff on it. I don't need to put anything in it. So she just accepted it and loved the way they looked and didn't worry too much about it for very long. And then years later, Esther's moving some things around, and she thought, I wonder if that thing ever dried out. I wonder if I could put something in it. And she tugged on it and it opened. And she thought, oh, there's a whole lot of space in there to put a whole lot of things. And so she put some night reading in there, some books, some things that she thought she might like near her bedside. And then when she went to close it, it was still too big for itself. So she just kind of kicked it with her foot and in it went. And she thought, good, I'll never see those things again. But she was feeling playful about it, and she thought it was funny after all of these years that the paint still hasn't dried. So then she went about her day, did other things, and that night came home from dinner with friends, and she had a bottle of water, and she popped the top on it, and it's like her hand went into a sort of fit, a sort of indescribable, uncontrollable seizure in her hand. And she squirted water all over. And she's laughing. She's thinking, what is wrong with me? Why would I do this? And so it still seemed very funny because it was like nothing that she'd ever experienced. She managed to squirt water all over the floor. A good third of the bottle was gone. She could not release herself from her fit. So she went into the bathroom and pulled a towel and held one end of the towel and used the other end of the towel to wipe up the mess, and heard something roll across the floor. And when she looked to see what it was a tack that had come out of the cabinet with a round edge that had a very sharp point, and it was pointed right up. She realized that it was right on her path as she gets up in the night to go to the bathroom. And so it was a tack ready to be stepped on. It was in the perfect position, and her inner being knew it. Now, a seizure was just the path of least resistance. You see what we're getting at? She wasn't in a position to receive a block of thought about that as clearly as that. What do you mean a tack? What kind of tack? Where did the tack come from? In other words, it would have been too much to explain. She would have stepped on the tack before we had an opportunity to let her know what it was. But this was the perfect opportunity. Just squirt water all over the floor and let her find it in the comfort of a towel rather than in the bareness of her toes. You see what we're getting at? So path of least resistance takes on many shapes and forms, but it's always to lead you to your greatest benefit. And we don't want Esther to ever say, oh, I must be losing my ability to translate Abraham. Why wouldn't Abraham just say, beloved Esther, there's a tack on the floor and you're about to step on it? Because she was not in any place that she could receive that, you see. Does this make sense to you?
Can we assume that almost everything that happens is that?
You can assume that everything that happens is your inner being guiding you toward well-being and you accepting it to one degree or another. Everything is that. Things are always working out for you, and to the degree that you are relaxed and allowing, in other words, Esther was very playful about that. She couldn't believe what she had done. She couldn't believe so much water could go so far. And she couldn't believe how she couldn't control her own hand.
Did she put that together, or just you put it together for her?
Oh, after she found the tack, she knew exactly what had happened. She didn't know what the seizure was about until she found the tack. But once she heard something roll, and then she had fun. She took the tack and she dropped it on the floor 3 or 4 times, and every time it landed pointed up, because that was the way it was balanced. As it fell, that's the way it was. It was an accident looking for a foot.